Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear us okay?
No, we need the microphone with this size of the room.
All right, I think I think it's a good time to start. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming to this presentation.
More people coming.
Yep. What the cloud? So first, who we are, right? So my name is Chris Janiszewski. We both work for Red Hat. We both work for mostly of the customers. I'm part of the. I'm a solutions architect, a principal solutions architect. I work mostly with the customers on prototyping solutions before they get into the production. I focus on most of the technologies that run, open source technologies that run in a data center. Some of them are listed here: Openstack, Kubernetes, automation, and storage.
My name is Julio Villarreal Pellegrino. I am a distinguished architect with Red Hat Services. I also, like Chris, work on the field. And my job is to take it after Chris. Like customers that have been to prototyping to take them to production, usually, involving numerous technologies. But I also do have a lot of conversation with customers that are new to the cloud. And that's a big part of what we're going to be talking today, is how to go through that process of cloud adoption and what cloud means.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a good entry. So I just want to kind of clarify what you're going to be able to get from this session. So this session is designed to be introductory. And then since both me and Julio are coming from the field, you're going to be able to learn some customer stories and success stories and failure stories and what to do and what not to do. What you're not going to be able to learn here is how to troubleshoot flows with OVN, for instance, or figure out the hashing of the Ceph, right? So if you're expecting the very technical talk, I hate to burst your bubble, but that's not gonna be here. But there's gonna be a lot of good content here. So thanks so much for being here with us. Okay, so this really long word, I really hope we're not cursing. We're just when we put the level set in a Google Com in German version, that's what it came out. So hopefully that's, if we have any German native speakers, hopefully we didn't butcher it. But just this is the purpose of the slide is just to get through the lingo of cloud and kind of level set what everything is. So what is cloud, right? It's someone else's computer, right? That's what you typically hear from people. But in reality, it's a set of services that are meant to abstract different resources that are being available to you, either in a data center or somewhere on someone else's data center, right? So this is what cloud is. And then this conference used to be called Openstack Summit. Now it's Open Infra Summit. But is Openstack a cloud? Yes, it is, right? However, if you talk to anyone who works at AWS or Google or Microsoft Azure, if you ask them what is cloud, they're only going to tell you it's the public cloud. The cloud is only what they kind of provide. And how they refer to something like OpenStack is a private cloud, right? Or on-prem infrastructure. Can something like VMware be a private cloud? Yeah, right. You can put a bunch of web services in front of it, and then put a common API in front of it, and technically it's a cloud as well, right? And now when you combine these two together, when you deploy your work or when you orchestrate your workload between these two, then you can claim that you have a hybrid cloud, right? So that's kind of again starting with the basics. What is hypervisor? Everyone knows what hypervisor is, okay? Yeah, so it's another abstraction layer that allows you to slice a bare metal machine into the smaller pieces and dedicate these smaller pieces from compute, storage, and networking to another layer of operating systems that are going to run on top of it, right? So you can have a Linux with some KVM hypervisor and then a bunch of other operating systems, which don't have to be Linux, they can be Windows, etc. So we covered hypervisors and what virtual machine is. The virtual machinists are those slices with the operating system, and then containers are a little bit like a virtual machines, except you don't need to. They're much more efficient. You don't have to create the operating system layer for every time you need a new set of resources, right? And then there's a concept you might have heard of software-defined everything, right? So there's software-defined something. So in the past, if you're familiar with the traditional data center, right? You would buy, if you needed to connect two workloads together, you would have to buy a switch from Cisco, from Arista, from Juniper, and then make that communication within that usually proprietary appliance. The software-defined, the concept is just to detach that smart, intelligent software out of the proprietary hardware and put it inside a commodity hardware, right? And you can do that for all type of resources like storage, network. So two more, and we're going to have our buzzword bingo. And by the way, if you know all of these words already, in some companies you can get to the director level or chief level. So, or you can at least play. Or you can at least play a buzzword bingo with your colleagues. But so what's DevOps or DevSecOps? It's the methodology that for developing either software or even infrastructure that came out from the Agile, which some of you might be familiar with. And then there's also concept of infrastructure as a code, and this can apply to both the workloads that you're trying to orchestrate on top of your cloud, as well as the cloud itself, right? So you can treat your cloud, your life cycle as a code, right? So put everything in a YAML file, so like in the text files, where you manipulate that cloud by just changing these files. But you can do the same for the workloads, of course, running on top of it. So that's it for the level set. Hopefully it wasn't too boring for you. Okay, I'm gonna pass it to Julio.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how a failed cloud journey goes. Like anyone here being in that type of company where they start a cloud project and that cloud project fails miserably? Well, like people probably don't want to acknowledge that, but I bet you that most of the companies out there, they've been through this kind of process. But how this goes? So I think that for some of the failed stories out there, things start at the media level. Like we have a media that hypes the companies that are moving to the cloud, and are reaping benefits. A lot of them vendor sponsor, and that's all what you could see on the media, like all the success stories. Nobody never talks about when they fail. And I think that doesn't do any good to anyone, because then people don't learn from other people failing. So the media is always, oh, this company A or company B, they move to the cloud and they're so happy, they save so much money. So that usually starts there. And then you get the executive that reads the headline of the article, and sometimes they don't even go into the full article, and they say, oh, cloud computing, that sounds really cool. I bet that I could be like company A or company B, and I could move to the cloud, and we all could be a really happy family. And that's the journey how most people in the last couple of years started the cloud journey. It's like they read someone else, like CIO.com or some other magazine about a success story, and they thought that they could replicate that by osmosis. Like, oh, it worked for them, it's going to work for us. That's usually not how life works. And then they deliver the message to the company that, hey, you know what? We're going to move all these systems to the cloud. Like, they didn't talk to the engineer. They didn't talk about use cases. They're just going to move everything to the cloud. And they're going to go to the cloud even when they don't know what the cloud is. And after that, we get the infrastructure architects, that they get the mandate from the chain of command, like came down from the top, and he say, hey, infrastructure architect, how many infra architects do we have on the room today? No infrastructure architect here? Like nobody responsible for architecture? Like they get the mandate, hey, we have like one. You're going to move to the cloud, you're going to build the cloud. And the same happened to the application architect. He get the same mandate, hey, you're going to move to the cloud, we are moving to the cloud. What happened is like these two things are very different two things for these two different roles in the organization. For the infrastructure people that are carrying and maintaining your infrastructure, that are building what is supposed to be the cloud, and for the application people that are designing what is going to run on top of the cloud and how it's going to run on top of the cloud. So usually they depart from these two different visions by the same mandate that was not even properly analyzed. So most people go to the cloud with that idea that the cloud is a fantasy land. Like, hey, all our problems that we have as organizations are going to be fixed by the cloud. And that's not actually true. I hate to burst some people's bubbles, but that's not how life works. And then, by the end of this mandate, and I've seen this many, many times in my career, something is built that nobody uses, right? Or that it wasn't built to the specifications, and then you get a failed project. What is the difference between that failed project and company A and B? This failed project is never advertised outside of the organization. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about the failed effort. And for sure, no media hype is created around the failed project. So, based on my experience, even with some of our customers, we go through this process, that we go through these failed projects. Why? Because they go through the exactly same pattern. Hey, we think that we need to go there without actually putting reasoning behind it. We go there, and then we realize that we were not prepared to go to the cloud, and then we have to pull back and reanalyze. So that's usually how a failed cloud journey goes. Now, what went wrong? I think that this slide is one of our coworkers' slide. Darren, he could not be here today, but this is a great slide. Like, reading is fundamental, right? Probably reading the whole article, or reading report from the field, or talking to the engineers, or having a little bit more of full vision when you are going to embark on a journey. Because one thing is like cloud is equal service and cloud. This is not about technology. If you are a developer or you are an infrastructure person and you think that the moving to the cloud is 100% about technology, sorry, but you are going to fail. And I'm telling you this from experience because I've seen that happen once and too many times. So moving to the cloud is about putting everything together. It's about software, it's about people, it's about skills, it's about the business components when you are making that move. So it's just not about going home and deploy a infrastructure as a service or a container as a service platform. It's about putting everything together and working together to make it successful.
All right. So that's a good transition. Julio mentioned a couple more buzzwords. Something as a service, right? There's not every cloud is the same, right? So there's more than the three that I'm listing here, but I want to start with the infrastructure as a service, right? So again, this is used to be called Openstack Summit, right? But in general, this conference focuses on the first category on this list, right? So Openstack is there. Starling X would be there, right? And some other projects within this community, and that's from the data center perspective. The role of the infrastructure as a service is to abstract your on-prem, your data center, your compute, your network, your storage, and give you this, give you a bunch of web servers with the common API that your end users can consume, right? And then from the public cloud perspective, most of you probably are familiar with services like Amazon EC2, EBS for storage, etc., right? The next category is a platform as a service, PaaS, right? So PaaS, how does it differ from the infrastructure as a service? PaaS focuses on providing services, cloud services and toolings for the developers to be able to build their application, right? So it focuses on developers' tools and services. And then if you look at the community of solutions that are out there, so anything Kubernetes based is usually floating around platform as a service. OpenShift from our company, from Red Hat, is one of those platforms that can be in that category. But there's services like AWS Beanstack and Google App Engine. So now what's container as a service, CaaS? And CaaS, or container as a service, it sits in between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And it's even more confusing because products like OpenShift, or solutions like OpenShift from Red Hat, or some other ones, they also land in that category. So they span across multiple categories. But the role of CaaS is to provide the container orchestration and container infrastructure to the developers that they can consume when they deploy the application. Oh, sorry, that clicker is. All right. So anyone else, anyone here uses AWS other than me? Okay. So if you are using AWS today, you're probably very familiar with this diagram. For you that don't use it, that might be a good thing to know. There's a lot of misconception when you use the public cloud in general. It doesn't just apply to AWS. Again, I have stolen it directly from their website. But there's a shared responsibility model in a public cloud. And what it means, a lot of people think if you put your VM on AWS or Google Cloud or Azure, you don't have to worry about anything else. That public cloud is going to take care of my backups. It's going to take care of patching my OS. It's going to take care of my security. And none of that is true, actually. All of that is still your responsibility as a user of the public cloud, right? What they are providing to you is resource or the compute resource, compute storage, and network resource isolations in forms of regions, right? So they can have one region in Berlin, another one in Munich, etc. They give you different availability zones, so you can build your application that will be resilient. You can build 6 nines if you want from your SLA perspective, right? So they provide the core infrastructure services, but everything above it, security, again, network, operating system, patching, you are responsible for all of that, right? And they make it easy for you, right? They will give you the backup solution, or they're gonna have 10 different backup vendors that will help you take care of the backups, etc. But that's something that I think there's a big misconception. And now you're gonna appreciate my mad Photoshop skills. So this is the shared responsibility model for the private cloud. In other words, there is no shared responsibility, right? So the Openstack, or the Openstack with the supporting services, you are responsible for all of it. Okay.
Okay, I love this phrase because I talk a lot to our customers around this topic, and do you know the effect you intend to create when you are building something, right? And this is from a great sci-fi fantasy author, Melissa Maffel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about customer stories. Of course, customers' names are redacted. As I was saying before, I've seen a bunch of failures. Fortunately, I've seen a bunch of successes also in the cloud adoption process. But I'm going to focus today in the people that fail, because I think that this is important. Because if you want to hear a success story, just Google it. Just put cloud customer, hit the search button, and you will get like a million of those, right? So let's talk about this first customer. Customer one is about technology adoption without process change. So this was a customer of mine, like early in the day. Like they call us and they say, okay, we have a problem. We have developers that they are requesting a virtual machine to do their work. Right now, the whole flow is taking 28 days to request a virtual machine. Who's been in a situation like that? And this is not the worst one, time-wise, as I seen other ones to be in a worse situation. Now, 28 days, that's really bad, you know? Perfect. Let's go at it. So we start working with the customer. We start talking about technology, but we also start talking about processes. Okay, like show me, how do you provision a virtual machine? What does it take today? So the customer shared a bunch of steps with us, like we start advising them in how to reward the things. No, we got that part. We want to focus on the technology. We want to focus on the automation. We want to focus in as the service component. So we went to the same project, and anyone guess what was the result after the whole engagement that we did with the customer for the provisioning time? 27 days. We shaved 1 day. And why did we shave 1 day? Okay, I hope that this works. Okay, we shaved 1 day because of the technology, you know? The technology, the automation that we put in place, it worked. You know, like we were able to provision a virtual machine in a couple minutes, to do all the configuration with automation in a couple minutes. But what they didn't change was the processes. So they thought that by adopting a new piece of technology, they will be fine. They will fix the problem. Okay, this is a technology problem. Let's fix it with technology. Let's throw money at it, and let's change the way that we call an API. That's what they thought that will happen, and they will fix their use case. But they didn't want to look at their process and procedure. And it's back to what I was saying on the beginning. Like cloud adoption is more than technology. And this customer learned it the hard way. After the failure, and they have like some metrics, they came back to us and they said, okay, why is it taking 27 days? So our answer was simple. Well, because you are only looking at the technology. You are not looking at what is behind all the operations and all the procedures that you do today to deploy a virtual machine. And maybe this example doesn't correlate directly to you, but maybe something that happened in a similar way within your organization. Like you guys are focusing probably too much on the technology, and you guys most likely you all are engineers, right? So you get the technology down. And that's what my customers usually don't realize. They have the talent in-house to do things. They could do it. You know, like, hey, it's technology. We have people that could write code. We have people that could deploy systems. It's the other component that they are not willing to look at. So that's my first failure story of the day, the deployment debacle, I call that one. So the second one is, I actually, this is a specific, but I have like many like this one. And this is based on the first slide too, right? Like the cloud is cool. Like, oh, we're going to the cloud is cool, the cloud will fix everything. We're going to the cloud is cool. So you meet with the executive, okay, why are you going to the cloud? What are your use cases? How are you going to change the way that your teams work? Guess what? They don't have those answers. Why? Because the cloud is cool. They read it in someone else's blog, right? Or his friend that is a fellow CIO on a different company told them, hey, you know what? We are more agile because we went to the cloud. They didn't tell them how they went to the cloud. They just tell them, oh, we went to the cloud and life is beautiful. So, and they focus on this lie that the cloud is cool. And the reality is the cloud is awesome, but it's not easy, right? Because again, it's not about technology only. So what was the output for this customer? So they failed. Like they built a platform that nobody used it. Why? Because they never talked to their final users. They never sat with the developers. They never sat with the LOBs that runs systems on top of this platform. So they failed. You could build the best platform in the world. If that platform doesn't meet your developers and your users' demands, nobody's going to use the platform. And this is not the only case like that I've seen in the field. I've seen many people building great platforms based on their imagination or in what they think that is needed, and then they put it out there and nobody uses it. Why? Because they miss a critical component of the conversation. And it was to engage with their own people to understand their business and technical needs. Like one serious problem for this customer was security. After the awesome platform was built, their GSO team came and they say, this doesn't mean anything of what we work on security-wise. Why? Because they never had a security conversation. They thought that they could build, and that will fix the problem. So, and that's another lesson that I usually talk to my customers about. It's like you need to engage everyone that is a core component of your decision-making in infrastructure and application, day zero. Security cannot be an afterthought. Your user cannot be an afterthought. These people need to be there from day zero if you want the cloud that you build to be used accordingly.
All right, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I see we have 5 minutes left here. So anyway, I think the next 2 slides is a bit of the summary and kind of repeat to what Julio have said. So legacy versus, so this is a technical considerations, right? So legacy versus modern data center. A lot of customers that we work with, they go from the traditional and they want to cloudify their data center. They want to go to the modern data center, right? And there's a different processes, as Julio mentioned, between the two, right? So you don't want to be kind of stuck in the past, in the old processes, because this is how we have been doing it from the very beginning. There's also just like we talked about the shared model from the AWS, the diagram before, where your cloud provider does not take off your data resiliency or workload resiliency. This is going to be the same even if you cloudify your environment. There's a shift into where that resiliency is handled, and that might be different than what most of the customers are doing in a traditional data center. The skills perspective, it's also different, right? Like if you have a team of the VMware admins, let's say, or doesn't have to be VMware, or mainframe admins, or legacy technology admins, they don't necessarily have the skills. You might need to build your own, cloud, right? Or use the public cloud. And to be honest with you, it's really hard to find people with those skills in the marketplace, right? So what I usually recommend to my customers is just to get a good Linux guy, right? Or with the good fundamentals from the open source guy, or the developer, right? And then he's gonna do just fine in building or helping you build your cloud, right? And another thing that Julio mentioned, governance and security, it's got to be a day one discussion and not day two, right? It cannot be afterthought. From the business perspective, is there a competitive advantage that you get in building your cloud or going to cloud? I don't know. I think everyone, or most of the people are already there, right? So you might get competitive disadvantage if you're not there already, right? And what does that mean? Might be a couple things. From the total cost of ownership, right? The customers always ask us, where will I get the better TCO, right? And there's usually 2 kind of considerations: traditional versus cloud, or public versus private, right? And if you guys gonna go to Microsoft or Google or any public cloud provider, they're gonna tell you they have the best TCO in the market, right? If you're gonna go to your traditional virtualization, they're gonna tell you they have a best TCO. I think the trade-off is usually if you get more robust software, or more mature software, you will have to invest more into that software. And then if the private cloud, you can download off the internet, right? Like Openstack is open source. You can just get one for free, right? So TCO is 0, right? No, right? You have to, if you wanna invest in private cloud, usually the cost goes into the acquiring and retaining a good talent, right? And the talent acquisition is actually, if you have job openings for like a DevOps positions, you're going to have a lot of really good candidates, right? So it's good to acquire really good talents if you have a cool jobs that can do this stuff. The problem is retaining these guys, right? Because they're gonna join you, they're gonna scale up, and they're gonna look for the better opportunity. Right? We've seen that hundreds of times with a lot of our customers. Sorry. Yeah, maybe. So anyway, you wanna stay relevant and definitely go into the cloud journey if you're not already there. But I think that's kind of a good summary. And I'm gonna go back to Julio.
So we're almost wrapping up today. So how do we get there? You know, like I think that the first component is, like I said before, the cloud is not cool. The cloud is awesome, but you need to adopt it in the proper way. I think that if you are an engineer and your company is going through this process, like to have a conversation about what could go wrong is really important, about going back to the fundamentals and about that is more than software, right? I keep telling developers, this is not just software. Like we need to have these conversations in our companies. We need to make our voices be heard when we talk about that. Because if not, it's just most of the time wasted effort. So we want to avoid that. Oh, I went to the wrong place. So how to do this with success? You know, like identify a problem or a use case. Don't adopt cloud because you want to adopt cloud. I think that you need to be clear in identifying those use cases. Determine how this adoption process will impact your organization and what will be problems and solutions that you will bring to the table. Design solutions which considers all the parties. You know, get everyone on the same room from the beginning. The developers, the infrastructure people, the security people, the decision makers, so you could get the right support. Ensure that all parties are on board with the solution design that you are proposing and with the plan. After that, a step-by-step approach, phase out your adoption process. Rome wasn't built in one day. You need to actually phase out your adoption process. And last but not least, expect the unexpected. You know, like this is a learning component of cloud adoption. It's like you need to be ready for anything to happen. So.
Yeah, thank you. So back to that, I like that Mike Tyson has a good saying about that. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. All right, so thank you. I don't know if you guys want to stay and ask some questions, we'd love to answer them. If not, then we're gonna be around and just stop us and you can ask any questions. Just don't mind at all. We would love to talk to you guys if you have anything. Thank you.